Hello, everyone, and I'm glad to welcome you all to our today's live with Michael Mosimann. He's a counsel, attorney at law and civil law notary at Prager Dreifuss, and we're going to speak about something quite complex that is often the very difficult cornerstone of establishing a blockchain-focused business. Which are the legal aspects and the legal procedures that every business has to pass. And we will speak about, actually, why Switzerland. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Erden.
Yeah, all good, thanks. You all good?
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Happy to do so, happy to be here.
Well, would you briefly tell us about the general scope of work of your company? What have you been doing the last year?
Sure, happy to do so. So Prager Dreifuss is a law firm, mid-sized law firm in Switzerland with focus on commercial legal aspects. We have been working in corporate law, regulatory, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we have also litigation. My personal background is essentially the startups and venture capital. I have been working in that area for close to 10 years now. And since the beginning of 2017, I have been increasingly involved in blockchain technology companies, ICOs, and all that kind of stuff. So my client mix nowadays is approximately 90% blockchain companies and blockchain startups, and 10% rather traditional clients, so to say.
I see. Well, I believe, according to everyone's experience, not just your companies, just a couple of years ago, like let's say 3 years ago, any ICO project in terms of the legal basis and the legal establishment was a complete mess. They used to establish some companies in either BVI or Singapore, and that is all fine, but there was nothing else. It's like there was a complete mess with bank accounts. There was a complete mess with responsibilities. Now, can you actually see that? Well, let's say take a look at the 90% of the companies that you say. Can you see that there is a fully transparent set of guidelines to establish a blockchain business? There is the framework already complete?
I think not yet, and that actually depends on the jurisdiction you are located in. So as to Switzerland, I think establishing a company is pretty straightforward. It hasn't changed much over the last 50 years, probably. I think what has changed is the difficulty of getting a bank account for that company, especially if you're active in the blockchain business. Swiss banks have become very reluctant to open bank accounts in that area, which also affected the incorporation. So occasionally we had to switch to a contribution in kind and use cryptocurrencies in order to pay in the initial share capital. Some banks are willing to open bank accounts for blockchain businesses, but not all of them. And I think what has also changed is the mindset of many ICO entrepreneurs. I think back 2 years back in time, everybody has simply done their ICO without really paying attention to financial market regulations that could be potentially applicable. Nowadays, people are much more aware of the fact that regulation is applicable. In Switzerland, you have a rather clear framework of token classification, so FINMA did a great job in that area. However, in different other jurisdictions, that's still unclear what they would regard token as. And I think what Switzerland still needs to do is in terms of providing a legal framework to legally transfer ownership in tokens. I think this is simply something we haven't really implemented in our law yet, and this is unclear how you validly transfer ownership in tokens. But we're getting there. The Federal Council has realized there is a need for action, and has initiated the process to elaborate on how they would really establish that legal framework.
Mm-hmm. Can we expect it anywhere soon, anytime soon?
Probably not. I mean, making a law in Switzerland takes time, and especially transferring ownership rules have been in existence for several hundred years, if not even thousands of years. So establishing a new way of validly transferring ownership is quite a huge step, and Switzerland has never ever rushed into something. We have always taken our time, elaborate on different options in order to finally get an option that really works. So I'm not expecting to see anything very soon, but I think the process is going on, and we will see some proposals coming up early next year, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, then I will try to play the ICO and startups advocate, and then my next question will be in in the current market conditions, when we still have quite messy and incomplete frameworks in basically every jurisdiction that I'm familiar of, and there are no clear requirements from state authorities and from financial monitoring to actually have a bank account necessarily opened within the jurisdiction. And well, let's admit that working in Switzerland in one of the oldest corporate grounds for a company in Europe is quite expensive. Well, taking all that into consideration, why would I, if I, let's say, had my ICO startup running now, why would I still prefer to go to Switzerland to establish a business there?
Very good question. I mean, in the past years, we have seen companies simply choosing their place of domiciliation due to easiness or losing financial market regulations. I think if you want to consider taking a domicile in a jurisdiction, you need to look at all aspects. As far as Switzerland is concerned, I guess we have a comparably reasonable financial market regulation framework. I mean, FINMA has made it clear that token sales might fall under financial market regulations, and it's simply up to you to find out under which regulation you fall. Then on top of that, I think Switzerland has a pretty good history of having moderate tax rates, corporate tax rates, and what we also have is reasonable and reliable authorities. So when you get a statement from them, you don't have to expect they change their mind within another week or something like that. If you get advice from authorities, it will remain that advice, and they're not going to change it anytime soon. What you also have in Switzerland, and especially in the area around the canton of Zug, having internationally been recognized as the crypto valley nowadays, you have an environment of blockchain experienced service providers, i.e., it starts with the governmental authorities. You have the city of Zug that accepts Bitcoin up to a certain amount for paying services. You have a commercial register that accepts Bitcoin and Ether as payment for their services, as well as accepting these cryptocurrencies as contribution in kind. That's still the only commercial register in Switzerland, as far as I know. Then you also have different service providers in the IT area, in the accounting area, auditors, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty good to have pretty close to you. Besides that, it's still the traditional aspects of doing business in Switzerland. It's a stable environment, politically safe. Also, if you want to relocate employees here, we have good educational system for kids. We have a pretty safe environment in terms of low criminality. So if you look at the overall framework, I still would consider Switzerland as a very good environment to locate for business here.
So it's not about some particular business model or economy model of the project. It's about the potential provided by the state for stable development.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the important reasons. I mean, Switzerland has ever appreciated innovation. We have very good universities here that really support the research part. I think Switzerland has many merits. We might not be the fastest ones in establishing new regulations and something like that, but after all, we get some sort of reasonable regulations when they finally come out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I still kind of taking a look from the perspective of a foreign startup. Well, without any sort of disclosure, of course, but let's say taking a look at the vast number of all those ICOs and startups that you have been working with, do you have a majority of foreign startups joining the Swiss domain and establishing their legal entities there, or are those mostly the domestic startups and projects developing in Switzerland?
Very interesting question. I mean, predominantly it's foreign entrepreneurs that want to establish a company here. So we really see an influx of entrepreneurs and businesses coming to Switzerland, which not necessarily mean that they will have real substance here. Most of the time, or in most cases, they for the first time will still only have the legal entity and the minimum representation here. But as time goes on, they also increase the headcount of employees they have here. They establish substance. But yeah, it's generally foreign entrepreneurs coming to Switzerland.
Mm-hmm. So shall we expect Switzerland to attract more and more startups and businesses, and eventually to become not just a domain for the crypto valley, but the actual center of the tokenized world? Can we expect that?
I think Switzerland will do a good job in fostering its position at the head of that table. There might be jurisdictions that will catch up, and happy to elaborate on or getting experience with these jurisdictions as well. But I think in terms of reliability and everything that I mentioned before, Switzerland still has a very good chance on staying up there.
Okay, thank you. Well, then let me do a little bit of kind of event promotion here. You know, nobody notices that, but we do speak about it. Well, apparently we welcome you at our summit on the 23rd and 24th of November.
Exactly.
Now, for the rest of our audiences, would you please tell us what would you like to share with us? What information, what insights would you like to share with us in the event?
Sure. I mean, I guess my goal among all the other legal experts coming from other jurisdictions will predominantly be highlighting the benefits of Switzerland, elaborating on the legal framework, especially the financial market regulatory framework, what you might have to expect when you come here and do an ICO. I think that's a very interesting discussion. I was part of the last Blockchain Leadership Summit in Zurich, which was very exciting, and I really look forward to taking part in the new discussion coming up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let's say for those who are not just interested in learning insights, but who want to obtain some practical, some more practical introduction, or some more pragmatic values, will you be available, like somewhere like between the tracks of the summit, will you be available for communication there if there are people looking for some legal assistance in Switzerland?
Sure, absolutely happy to talk to everyone that will be at the event. I mean, last time it was very exciting being there. I think I spent a considerable time around the cafe area, grabbing coffee and talking to so many exciting people. And I really look forward to catching up with many of them that I met at the last Blockchain Leadership Summit. And I'm also more than happy to get to know new exciting people.
Okay, we will have loads of coffee prepared at the cafe area this time too.
Great.
All right. Great. Well, thank you for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to see you in Basel, and we're happy to announce your participation. And let's make it a great event together. Let's give everyone, all our guests, as much value as we can, and show them that the blockchain industry is ready to develop.
Sure, happy to do so. Looking forward to meeting everyone at the event.
Just a second. I'm sorry. Just 1 second. That is, we have one more question from the chat here. Yeah. Mr. Mosimann, would you please tell us what is your vision of the blockchain future in 5 years in Switzerland? Not in the close future that we've been speaking about, but in 5 years, let's say.
5 years, good question. I think my personal guess is that the blockchain world will look completely different than what it is nowadays. I think we have learned quite a lot with big blockchains that we have nowadays with Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple. But I think my guess is it won't stop there. In 5 years' time, that's a considerable amount of time, considering that fast blockchain environment, that fast acting environment. The environment will look completely different. I guess we will have other blockchains that tie in with existing financial market regulations in order to build a bridge between the old banking world and the new blockchain world. I know it has been one of the goals of the blockchain ecosystem to get rid of all those traditional financial market intermediaries. But also the 2 last years have shown that big business companies like, for example, Swiss companies like Roche, Novartis, Nestle, or others, they haven't really bought into the blockchain environment. They are looking at it, maybe trying to get one or the other input for their own business model, but they haven't engaged in actively using those blockchains as means of payment actively. And my assumption is that we're going to see developments in an area that will bring those big business and those companies closer to the blockchain environment. And yeah, I'm very excited to see what it will look like.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, we actually will have representatives of those big corporations you mentioned, and you're right. Well, from all the abstracts that I have received for the agenda, there is nothing about payments or transactions. It's more about the distributed ledger technology used in their business processes.
True. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, and thank everyone. Thank you guys for your questions. Looking forward to our next live, and looking forward to the summit, as I said, 23rd, 24th November in Basel. Yeah, by the way, as far as I have seen on the website, the tickets are still available, so please join us.
Great, thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, bye-bye. See you at the event.